Hello boys and girls, I hope every single one of you is keeping happy, keeping healthy. So it's been about 1 year pretty much, maybe a little bit over, since I got my dreadlocks done. And since then, I've had quite a few people comment on my videos saying, oh, do a dreadlock update, you know, like let us know how to get on. And I kept saying, yeah, I'll do it when I get to this stage, or I'll do it when I get to that stage. And eventually it was like, yeah, I'll do it at the 1 year mark. And now it's the 1 year mark, and I'm shaving my dreadlocks off in a couple of weeks time, so it's kind of now or never. Like, I got no choice but to make the video. So I'm just going to give you guys a bit of insight into, you know, the journey, how long they kind of took to lock and stuff, things I found helpful, just bits of advice like that, maybe for anybody that is looking to get dreadlocks themselves. So firstly, the method that I did use to form my dreadlocks was the twist and rip. I say I had a friend do it in my staff room at work, and I would say that it took me about 6 months for them to properly lock up to become real dreadlocks, you know. Before that they were just thin little bits of wire essentially. So it was a bit tricky because everywhere that I did look, different websites and different videos were all saying do this, do that, and there was just such a massive bombardment of conflicting and contradicting information. And my conclusion I reached in the end was that I pretty much just didn't listen to any of it, you know. I think it's important to realise that everybody has different hair, so their locking process is going to be completely individual to them. A few things that I would say I did find beneficial, however, was being very careful about getting your hair wet in the early stages as it's still locking, particularly under the shower, because if there's a lot of pressure from the shower, you know, your hair's just going to fall apart. So I was very cautious about that. A lot of pages online and videos say to use a do-rag to sleep when you go to bed. However, I just grabbed, you know, a hairband and tied it up like this, so it just had a little pineapple sticking up, and that worked completely fine for me. As well as this, I didn't use the gel that a lot of people recommend, just because dreadlocks will form on anybody if you leave your hair long enough. So I didn't feel like I needed some kind of external thing to force the process when it was going to happen naturally, you know? As well as that, dreadlocks aren't exactly the cleanest of things anyway, so putting more gunk in it you really don't feel that great when you're touching your hair. You're like, oh, what the hell? Obviously, as I say, it is different for everybody, but in my opinion, I really don't think you need to worry too much about all these different techniques. I didn't go to a proper loctician, I think that's what they're called, to get them done. It was just done by a friend. I didn't use the gel. I only rarely used the proper shampoo, like dreadlock shampoo and stuff. So yeah, I don't think you really need to worry too much about implementing all the different techniques that you read and hear online and use all the different products, because I pretty much allowed them to grow and develop in the most natural way possible. And I mean, they turned out fine, you know. One piece of equipment that I probably would say is quite important, however, is the crochet hook. So for those of you that don't know what that is, they're just these little, tiny little hooks basically on the end of these little sticks, and they're essentially used, you just put them in the dreadlock and it just pulls the hair back into it, so it keeps it all nice and neat. These are particularly useful if you want to tighten the dreads at the root, because I think I did it wrong when I was doing it the whole time. But obviously, yeah, you can just do it as close to the scalp as you want, and it just keeps it nice and tight. As well as that, you can also use these, probably the larger ones, to actually thicken your dreads. So I used to have more dreads, but with much less thickness to them, and I decided that I'd rather them to be chunkier. So I used one of these and literally just threaded them in and out of each other to double them up, and then after a while they just locked together and became one super dread basically. Using these hooks, however, does come with a word of warning. Over time, if you tighten it too much at the root, if you don't properly know what you're doing, you can make the dreadlock fall out, like so. Basically, the front of my head now, the dreadlocks start here, so the first maybe 3 inches of my head is just regular hair now. Probably good that I'm actually getting them cut off soon, but if you spend too much time tightening it at the root, you're continuously kind of ripping hairs out to pull them into the dread, and when it's continuously tight to your scalp, that's also pulling on the hairs that are still attached to your scalp. And after just a prolonged period of time of me doing this, one day I just turned around and I saw a dreadlock on the floor, followed by another one just a couple weeks later. Actually, I think that was maybe yesterday or the day before. So that is definitely one piece of advice I would give. If you are very cautious about this, I would potentially recommend going to a locticianer or watching a few more YouTube videos than I did, just to make sure you have the right technique. So even though it was a bit of a confusing time during the locking stage of the dreadlocks, after that 6-month period when they had all fully developed, I pretty much could just let them do whatever they wanted to. A lot of people would say you do need to keep up with your maintenance of the dreadlocks. However, for me, I just let them do whatever they felt like they needed to, you know. I wash them as much as I want to, with very little repercussions from it. I only retwist them when I feel like it. I don't feel like there has to be a set time that's required. And I definitely don't pay anybody to sort them out for me. Anything that needs to be done is usually just a YouTube video away. It can be worth paying someone like a locticianer to do it properly, because I guess at the end of the day you know that they're probably not going to fall out like mine did. However, that is more out of stupidity rather than lack of quality care for the dreads. One overarching piece of advice I probably would give, however, for anybody that is wanting to get dreadlocks or is in the early stages, is just be patient, man. As I've said, there is never one specific way for dreadlocks to form, because everybody has different hair types, and there is just a multitude of different techniques and rules that you can implement. But in reality, I think as long as you're just cautious about it and you are aware and you don't do stupid stuff, they will develop naturally in their own time. You know, that's pretty much the story of my dreadlocks. That's 1 year of locking for me. Part of me wants to grow them out even longer. However, they're getting cut off for charity, and 2.5 have fallen out now. Obviously these front 2 are gone, and it almost feels as though that's the universe trying to send me a sign saying, yeah, Thomas, it's time for them to go. But for any of you that are new to my videos on the channel, the dreadlocks are getting cut off to raise money for a school that I volunteered at in rural Nepal. It's going to help provide things like pens, pencils, books, just basic equipment to enhance their learning and their overall experience at school. If you were interested in donating any money towards it, I will leave a link to the GoFundMe in the description below. However, I hope any of you that are looking to get dreads or already have them and are in the early stages have been able to gain some kind of insight from this video based on my experiences, so you know a bit better what to do, what not to do, how to not lose dreadlocks falling from your hair. Until next time, guys, I hope every single one of you stays blessed, stays balanced, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.